What's up YouTube, Capital G here. Got a nice duo I want you guys to check out, and this is Hyper Synchro Deskbots. It's actually pretty interesting because I've seen a bunch of Deskbots in action before, and even though Deskbots are technically a Synchro deck, you rarely see them ever Synchro summon. They don't even really go into Deskbot Jet that much, and they usually don't even use their extra deck, but this guy is all about Synchro summoning. He's going to make some Synchros that you have probably never seen in Deskbot, so he's going to start here with the Deskbot 3, which basically summons one of the Deskbots from the deck except itself, and then he summons Deskbot Stratos, aka Deskbot 2, and I believe he's going to machine dupe that after research. What's crazy about Deskbot 2 is I believe it is not once per turn, so you just see he's going to just plus like a billion cards. Now honestly, just with the advantage that he has made turn 1, you can usually just outgrind your opponent at this point, because I mean he did start with 5 cards, guys, and he has 10 cards, so he has basically doubled the amount of cards in one turn with just a couple of activations of, you know, things like machine duplication. So his opponent is playing some sort of 6 Samurai or Invoke 6 Samurai. I don't know if this even works as a deck, but people are playing Invoked and everything. As soon as he activates Magical Meltdown, he chains Max C. And, I mean, the guy basically had to play into Max C. You couldn't leave Deskbots with this many monsters on board. Not only did he have 4 monsters already, but I think he had like 6,500 damage without his normal summon. So he basically had to summon into it. And this is where things get really cool. He actually plays the Earth True King, which, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I never really thought about. And even though it does fall to bottomless trap hole, it just doesn't matter. Like, Deskbots are still just explosive enough. He's going to synchro into Odd Eye's Meteorburst Dragon. He summons his Deskbot 5 from his Pendulum Zone, and the synchro plays are not gonna stop there, guys. He activates Powerful Rebirth, which I have never seen in Deskbots, but I mean, fuck it, why not? Goes into that spicy Trishula like he's calming a cat or something like that, and then he's going to Pendulum Summon. He's not done synchro summoning. He's going to bust out Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, and I mean, that is 3 synchro summons in one turn, and it's looking pretty good right now for him. I'm gonna say he's definitely going to win. I believe he's going to go Elder and an Alistair. He does chain Breakthrough Skill to get rid of the Alistair. I probably would have used Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Even if you do have 3 cards in hand, I'm just going to guess one of them is probably like an invocation. So I probably would have used, what's it called, Crystal Wing's effect. But he decides to go for the Breakthrough Skill. I mean, it's like no big deal. Brings out the Earth Eidolon for the 2nd time this duel. I mean, that's kind of crazy. You hardly ever see that one summoned. And then we've seen it twice this duel, but it just doesn't matter. Obviously, Crystal Wing rams into it. GG, no re. And this was just a very interesting duel because I'm not used to actually seeing Deskbots use their extra deck, let alone go into this many synchros, like 3 synchro monsters and 3 really good synchro monsters in the same turn going into Trish. Actually, were all 3 synchros dragon types? I feel like, yeah, Odd Eyes, Trishula, and Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon all in one turn. I mean, again, if I described to you a deck that could do that, pretty sure Deskbots wouldn't be on your list. Let me go ahead and pause it and see if I can show you guys the deck right quick. I probably won't explain it because honestly, it's probably not that different than most Deskbot variants. So this is what the deck looks like on paper. It's not that far outside of the traditional builds of Deskbots. Obviously, there are a couple of things that kind of stick out, like the True Kings. The Earth True King actually does make a little bit of sense here because Deskbots are Earth-based. So if you got some cards in your hand that you definitely want to unload, or if you know, pretty much open like he did where you make a massive amount of advantage off of a machine duplication, you have cards to spare, you can feel free to just pop those cards, summon your True King, get 2,500 more damage on board. Deskbots are historically known as a deck that can LTK relatively easy, and this just makes it easier at the same time. You can get rid of a bunch of problematic cards in your opponent's extra deck, like you can get rid of their Utopia the Lightning, or actually just get rid of a regular Utopia, then they can never summon Lightning. If you're playing against Infernoids, you can get rid of like the Tiaras, then they can never actually resolve things like Future Fusion. So, you know, this card actually can put in some work, get rid of the ABC Buster Dragons or the Dantes or stuff like that. There are other couple of cards that are going to stick out, like the Speedroid Minko. I actually think that this one makes a little bit of sense as well. Not only is it a defensive card, you see Deskbots don't really run that many traps. He's only running 4 traps in this build, and usually when you see Deskbot player, like they're not gonna run more than like 6 traps tops. This allows him to run a defensive card that technically can be used offensively as well. Keep in mind, you can actually machine duplication this. It is weird, I know, and it's probably, you're not gonna do it that often, I would imagine, but it can happen. I'm just pointing that out, that you actually can use this for machine duplication, and it is searchable from Gigagen X as well. So it's just a nice little searchable defensive card that basically will make it so that you can't be OTK'd unless, I guess, your opponent has something weird like Solemn Strike. The Symphonic cards are actually pretty good in here. Mics can be summoned straight from the deck with the guitar, and Mike is a level 5 machine, so you can use it with Instant Fusion. You can bring out Panzer Dragon, you can go into Cyber Dragon Infinity, or you can use it with like Despot 5. This is one of the weird decks, I guess kind of similar to Cyber Dragons. One of the only decks that will run like Instant Fusion, but actually won't use Outer Entity Norden, just because these type of machine decks usually play like Panzer Dragon. They usually try and go into you know, Cyber Dragon Infinity. So this is one of the Despot versions that can actually make a somewhat stunny field, because you guys saw in game 1, or well, the only, I'll just say the replay, you saw on the replay he was able to make Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. I mean, if you get Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon and a Cyber Dragon Infinity, that's gonna be a pain in the ass to deal with. Maybe you set a breakthrough skill down there. I would consider that definitely a stun field. Unless your opponent kaiju's it, they're probably gonna have some problems getting through that field. So just an interesting take on Despot, a more synchro oriented version. I mean, maybe you could throw in a couple more tuners in this deck, maybe like a Glow Up Bulb or something like that. Although Glow Up Bulb might kind of mess with reasoning. You'd already, like, it would already suck if you got a max T off of reasoning to begin with. But I mean, you do have your Despot 1 as like your primary tuner, but maybe you guys can think of a couple of other tuners that you could throw in here. You know, actually Glow Up Bulb could work, because you could discard it for Twin Twister, and you can discard it from the Draganic diagram, and then you could just pretty much bring it back, and you would be able to make Meteorburst, which you can already make in this deck. Maybe you have like a Despot 4 on the field, bring back your Glow Up Bulb, make a Meteorburst, then make Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Very hard field to get over. So just throwing some ideas out. The link for this deck will be in the description below for any of you guys that want to mess around with it. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already.